I am an Italian soldier, an Alpino. I just came back from my mission in Afghanistan. I was deployed in a military base in Balabalak in the Herat region. Italian bases in the area are designed as FOP, forward operation bases, basically just outposts in the middle of nowhere, patrolling the area and preparing the ground for more military forces. During the years, we were involved in minor guerrilla warfare in the area, even if in the latest years, enemy activity there intensified. In those moments, the stress was getting higher, but the Talibans were the least of our problems, even if we didn't know it yet. The local population was usually okay towards us, but never hostile. Americans do not get involved too easily with people here. They are too serious and too menacing. Italians have a reputation for being quite friendly and not so commanding to civilians. Even so, people here do not speak or open up very easily. So it was very weird when that night, an old man from a nearby village approached our sentinels at the gates. He looked quite shaken and confused. The sentinels made him stop in front of the gates, while the sleeping translator was awoken to speak with him. As second in command, I assisted Corporal Sergio Margarini while he took the old man into his tent to understand the situation. The translator, with us, he had trouble understanding the babbling man. He says his village was assaulted, that there are dead people lying in the streets. His daughter and his wife, they have just vanished. He is asking us for help. Sergio got right to the point. Taliban's attacked? Today? That's weird. NATO intelligence signaled that the area was less risky now. The translator spoke again, with difficulty, to the man. Not Talibans, he says. Something else. Something that shouldn't be here. He doesn't want to tell me who. He is scared to hell. He just repeats that they need help. Sergio was perplexed. Aiding local population is one of the primary goals of the peacekeeping mission, but proceeding with such little information could be very risky to us. I don't know. It all seems so confusing. We should communicate with the HQ. For operations like this, we need authorization. But since this afternoon, all communication is down. We are cut off from everything. And it's weird. It happens often in secluded places like this, but even the satellite communications are down, and this has never happened before. Maybe we should wait until tomorrow, send a unit to Herat, and see what they say in HQ. But I told him, tomorrow could be too late. If there are still survivors, waiting too many hours could be dangerous. If this man came here by foot, the village cannot be too far away. An expedition could clear the situation. He fought for a bit and then finally said, "You're right. After all, waiting could only cost more civilian lives. Vincenzone, wake up the others. You head to the village, now." The dirt road was dark, and the free Linz, which, if you're unfamiliar, is like an armored Italian scout car. They went as fast as the terrain conditions allowed them to go. The old man stayed at the base, too exhausted to even move. Following the indication on the map, and without the assistance of the GPS, it took us a solid half an hour just to get there, considering we got lost a couple of times before arriving. The village was on a low hill. Everything was dark. The lenses barely illuminated the small streets of it. Upon entering the area, we could not see any signs of life. A lot of doors were open, but there was no sign of a fight or any shooting. There was just nothing. This unreal silence enveloped the place, and there weren't even any sounds of nature. Lieutenant Aldo Bassoni and I were the first to get off of the vehicles, giving orders to the troops. 10 men in total, plus the 2 of us. The first order was to inspect the houses in teams of 4. The free units checked every single home, and there were no people inside. It was like an entire village had just vanished into thin air. While inspecting the last houses, one of the men, Ferrero, calls me inside one of them. He says, "I think we got something here." As I enter the poor house, in basically the only room of the house, I see an image that makes me freeze. A child, opened up from neck to the waist, insides all around the floor. No sign of the head, but there is a big bite mark on the top of the neck, and it looks like it was done by an incredibly huge jaw. His legs are visibly broken. One of the men leaves the house to puke. De Filippi started shouting about who in the world did this. He was a carabinier from Naples, which means he was part of a paramilitary that assisted with policing, and he said he had never seen anything like this. Back home, he hadn't seen anything as bad as this, even done by the mafia. He said he had never seen anything like this, never after Taliban attacks. Ferreira, finish inspecting the houses and regroup in the village square, is what he said. Outside the house, I'm trying to recap the situation with the troops, but even before speaking, I notice something is wrong. I can't understand what at first, it's just like a gut feeling. And then I realize, they are 11 people. Busoni next to me. I mentally recount them. 11 people. The only light source is offered by the flashlights on the helmets, so I take out a bigger one from my pocket. I whisper in Busoni's ear, "There is one more person, and you know it is not possible. Help me recognize them." I order them to stay still, without telling anyone the reason, so I do not scare them. They are nervous now anyway. I point my flashlight directly at their faces. I mentally say their names out loud. Bonelli, De Filippi, Tonelli, Rose, La Rosa, Esposito, and I freeze. No one noticed before now because of the poor illumination. But the soldier I am pointing at now, he has no fucking face. He has a uniform, a helmet, but no eyes, no mouth, no nose. The moment I notice, the soldiers next to him, or it, notice the same thing and start to scream loud. In the following confusion, the lights from the troops' head starts to shake and the situation goes out of control. People start to shoot, while desperately screaming all around. What's going on? What's going on? We all start to run in total panic. I can't understand the situation. The confused shooting goes on. They mostly just hit the walls because there is not any good light. The others are just screaming. I find myself in a lens. The vehicle is heavily armored, and except for a tank or a high caliber round, nothing can penetrate the armor. Inside the vehicle, I find Esposito and Iacono sitting in the front seats. We get locked inside. We can't see anything outside. It's all just in darkness. The flashes of light caused by shooting illuminates the place intermittently, while the helmet flashlights of the soldiers dance in the night. It creates this strobe effect. Iacono says what's going on and just stares at me, looking for an answer. I'm like, I don't know. I don't see anything. We must stay inside here. Esposito, start the damn engine. We must illuminate the area. Esposito is not listening to me. He is praying. He's saying some prayers from back home. I'm like, Esposito, speak damn Italian. I can't understand you. Esposito. He's catatonic. He saw the no face directly before the mess started and just couldn't stand it. It's no use. I already tried before. The engine doesn't work. No light, nothing. Iacono is speaking fast and out of breath. Meanwhile, the shooting and the shouting, they finally end. I can hear another lens door closing. Someone else like us found shelter in a vehicle. And again, there is just silence. I lost my flashlight in the mess, and the ones on our helmets just do not want to work. So we are also blind. Then we hear a voice coming from outside. Me and Iacono look at each other in disbelief as we recognize the same prayers that Esposito said before, but in a much higher tone, with even his same accent. Then, something starts to furiously scratch the back of the vehicle, like an animal, a big one. Then on the windows. We can't see what is doing this. The only relief that we have in this very moment is that the vehicle is bulletproof. We are safe while we are inside. Minutes go by as the noises continue. Someone or something gets on top of the lens. We are scared to death. We stay silent, unable to even speak, even Esposito. An hour probably passes by like this, with noises of heavy footsteps outside. Suddenly, strong lights hit the back of our vehicle. It's a big truck. With joy, we see it's one of our own. And in that moment, my heart decides it cannot take it anymore, and I pass out. When I wake up again, I am in my tent, back at the base. Sergio is there. Finally you woke up. I was scared you wouldn't wake up again. He explains what happened when I passed out. Hearing shooting from our location, Sergio sent almost every man in the base to come and rescue us. When they arrived there were no corpses. 7 of us were missing. The others were alive, still in the vehicles. Except for the bullets everywhere and signs of big scratches on the lenses, nothing else was left to help understand what happened. NATO command, along with the Italian one, took it as a Taliban attack on the village. That was it. My testimony, along with Yakuno's and the others, was taken only as delirium caused by PTSD. We were sent home a week later with a badge and congratulations from the Republic's president himself. The first month back, we were hospitalized for psychological rehab. Esposito took his own life in his room. Sometimes I still call Yakuno. He is the only one I speak to about all of this. No one else would ever really believe it. We still don't know what happened, but one thing is sure. The real danger in those places is not the guerrilla fighters. What happened to the man that came to the HQ? Did he ever say anything? I honestly don't know. When I woke up in the camp, he was not there anymore, and I did not think to ask him about it. He probably went back to Herat. Maybe was questioned in NATO HQ. No one mentioned him to me. Maybe he was sent to a refugee camp. I hope so, for his sake, even if his information would be useful to us. I doubt he would speak even under torture about what he knew, about what he saw. I was thinking about that time when I got back to Italy. Marco asked me about him too. He was convinced that maybe talking with survivors, the man will be more willing to speak. Who knows? Also, I must add that in Italy, there was not much attention about it. The majority of citizens do not care much about the army, or massacres involving military in foreign countries. Unlike the US, we do not have a strong military culture or great patriotism. There was a state funeral. The official version was given, Taliban attack, and after about a week, everything was forgotten in the country. Like in the Nasiriyah bombing, not a big deal for public opinion. The military is not really considered much. The army is just seen as a useless expense. With my own family, I just confirmed the official version and said that I did not remember much. Needless to say, I do not sleep much since I came home. So I'm back again. I promised another story about my time dispatched in Herat. Some minor things happened. Things that back then I just dismissed as normal situations in countries involved in war, but that now have totally changed meaning to me. Signals that I just stupidly ignored. Some months before the massacre happened, our unit was often involved in patrolling on the main roads of the region, usually dirt roads that went through fields and hills and connected small villages between them. We had to check almost every vehicle. Not a big deal, because there was only one every 2 or 3 hours. Harmless farmers most of the time. We had 2 Lints and 5 men in total. The vehicles were facing each other on the sides of the road. There was also Esposito and Bassone. We were smoking and joking in that moment. Doing that checkpoint was hell. It was boring, out in the middle of nowhere, and some men were playing briscola inside a vehicle, just to pass the time. The road went straight for at least 1 kilometer, before disappearing behind a hill. At first we heard a loud noise, a car engine, probably very old, at full capacity. We already knew what was going on before even seeing it. We had specific training for that. A car coming our way at full speed, and as we thought, we saw a rusty, light blue car coming to the checkpoint at full power, just appearing from behind the hill. We knew the procedure. We had time to take aim at the vehicle, as the other men came out of the lens, totally surprised. My cigarette fell to the floor. The car got closer every second, adrenaline pumping in my body, as I knew that was probably a bombing car meant to annihilate all of us. Just before the order to shoot was given, the old vehicle hit the brakes in the middle of the road. A man, shaking and crying, came out of the car. I smelled a trap, but we could not kill him on sight. Even if he was very likely a Taliban, that was not the international procedure. Come to us. Hands up and open, no sudden moves. Nadir, our translator, screamed the orders to the man, and he slowly came to us. Usually, we would make the suspect face the ground, hands behind the back, but getting close to him with the risk of a bomb inside the car was a total no. and take off your clothes, Nadir translated fast. The man was crying in despair, but he obeyed. He was almost naked, no signs of a bomb on him. We made him dress again, while I communicated the situation to HQ. Suspect apparently not armed, car status to be verified. When he reached us, we still could not say what was going on. In these cases, bombing against our structures or checkpoint, the attackers do not stop. They just drive to the target and explode. They are trained not to fear death, or at least to embrace it. The fact that he stopped at our orders was already weird, really not normal. He was shaken, and I admit that handcuffing him as a security measure made me uncomfortable. He seemed very powerless in that moment. I spoke with Basoni. Maybe he's just a civilian bothered by Taliban forces. The situation is not clear. HQ told us to interrogate him. I went to him. Now he had stopped crying, but he was still in shock. Nadir was next to me, translating. What happened? He comes from a nearby farm behind the village. His farm. He has some goats. He lives there with his wife and daughter. Are there other people in your farm? Maybe people hostile to us? The man shook his head. Where is your family? When Nadir asked him the question, the man started to cry again. It went on for a minute. Then he calmed himself a bit and answered, They are dead. I stared at the man. Who killed them? How? In a way that shouldn't happen. After it happened, he drove as fast as possible. He didn't know what to do. Then he found us. He was in terrible condition. Before going on, I offered him some coffee from my thermos. I would have liked to have given him some of my grappa, but I knew that as a Muslim, he could not accept it, even if it would have helped him very much right now. I gave him a cigarette. He declined. Now that he felt a bit more comfortable and no longer threatened, I politely asked him the question once again. Who killed your family? Why? He seemed to trust me more now. He stayed silent for a moment, then spoke slowly. He killed them. We both stared for a moment. Maybe Nadir understood wrong, but he confirmed the same thing. Before going on, I asked the man's name. He said his name was Ahmad. Ahmad, why did you do this? Did someone force you to kill them? While Nadir translated for the man, Basoni got next to me. NATO HQ gave order to wait here and maintain the checkpoint. When possible, they will send a patrol to the location that this man comes from to inspect. I nodded, still focused on Ahmad, who was talking with the translator. He told me that some hours ago, his wife's brother came back home. He lives there with them, and he was missing for 2 days. Ahmad tried to look for him around for a while, but saw no signs of him. Anyway, Ahmad and the 2 women were in the house when his brother-in-law opened the door. They did not hear any footsteps outside the house. As the wife greeted the brother with great joy, Ahmad soon noticed the man was strange. He did not speak or move. There, still at the entrance, he did not even blink. And then Ahmad got a better look at the man. Before, the strong sun from outside did not let him see clearly, but now he focused more on the returned man. Ahmad asked for some water. We hadn't noticed, but he was very dehydrated, like he had been in the desert for an entire day. But he wasn't, and that was a really weird physiological reaction. After he drank enough, we got back to the account. As Ahmad was saying, he looked better at the man. His face, he doesn't know how to explain, but it seemed wrong. Like one eye in a higher position than the other, just underneath the eyebrow. The nose was also higher, the upper point touching the forehead, and the mouth was like diagonal. The women at first did not notice, but at that point, Ahmad was terribly scared. He yelled at the thing at the door, saying that a demon would not stay in his house. The women now realized what was happening and started to cry. Ahmad was petrified. He was sure that this thing was no longer his brother-in-law, but he didn't know how to send away that terrible demon from his house. He did not have time to perform a Muslim exorcism. The only thing he could use to defend his family was an old high-caliber Soviet rifle he found abandoned decades ago. He ran to take it in his small room, and when he got back, he shot right at the creature's chest, leaving a hole. But it was not enough. As the demon just stayed still, looking with great euphoria at Ahmad, he tried shooting the demon again, this time in the head. Another shot took away another hole in part of the man's skull, but the thing was still there, like nothing happened, just standing. Ahmad knew it. He knew that his beloved wife and daughter would suffer greatly, a destiny worse than death itself, so he did what he had to do to save their souls. He shot them in the head before the monster could make them suffer. Ahmad wanted to end his own life too, but he couldn't because his religion forbids it. So he just pointed the rifle at the demon, waiting to die. But the monster sprinted to him, and in an instant, it grabbed the weapon. With only one hand, the monster bent the gun's barrel. Then, facing the evil presence, Ahmad was ready for his destiny. Now, Ahmad takes a long pause. He seems in a delirious state now. I can almost feel his fear. Nadir puts a hand on his shoulder. Even the translator seems very nervous now. Taking a deep breath, Ahmad goes on with his story. The twisted demon's mouth, untouched by the previous shot, turns into a distorted smile. It whispers in Ahmad's ear something he does not want to repeat, and then it just leaves. It slowly walks outside and just vanishes like it appeared. Ahmad stood there, frozen in fear for an undefined amount of time. He still can't fully realize what just happened. He didn't know what to do. He just wanted to speak to an imam, just to get away from there. He took his old car, and then he encountered us. I nod to Ahmad. I don't actually believe him. For sure he saw something terrible, but I am convinced that it is something more practical. Maybe Taliban messed with his family, and his mind created the story trying to deal with what happened, or maybe what they forced him to do. Or maybe something else. I don't know. This man seems sincere. He doesn't look like a cold-blooded murderer. Women's lives in this area are not very valued by local men. Murders over trivial things do happen, but to me, it doesn't seem like it is the case here. Sometime later, a NATO convoy approaches us, just a pair of military jeeps, French or Dutch soldiers, I do not remember. They take Ahmad into custody and proceed to his farm for investigation. And that's it. We left the checkpoint not much later. Back in our base, speaking with Margarini, I found out that on the farm, they found the two women's corpses, bullets in the head. Ahmad went crazy, so they left him in the vehicle. The NATO theory is that some Taliban passed by, maybe wanting food or repair, or maybe to take Ahmad as a fighter with them by force. Maybe they wanted to have some fun with his women. To spare the women from this, he killed them. They interrogated the man again, but he told the same story. They believed that he was way too scared to tell the truth. Anyway, they dismissed it as not an important case, and it just ended there. As for Ahmad, I don't know. Maybe still held by the military. I just hope for his sake he could speak with the person that he needed to. Just one thing. Do you know if they found a rifle in the house? He looks at me confused. A rifle? Oh yeah. Old Soviet model. In very bad condition. Not usable anymore, I heard. Bad condition? It was bent, you know? He laughs at me. Bent? What are you saying? Come on. Not that I know. They weren't very specific on this anyway. In that moment, I just accepted the explanation and forgot all about it. But after what happened, I thought again. What do they mean with very bad condition? If it was truly bent, it would be solid proof of what the man told us. Who in the world could bend a barrel with their hand? Only exposure to very high temperature, and I don't think that was the case. Anyways, that is one of the small stories I thought about again after my return. To me, it all now starts to make sense. Anyway, as I already said, I finally had the courage to speak with my mother about what happened. Since I came home, we do not speak much. Like everyone in the family, she was just relieved I was still alive and did not want to make any more stress for me by forcing me to remember and relive what happened. But she knows me well and could clearly see the pain I've carried since then. So, I needed to share it with her, and I did, because the silence between us was killing me. I told her almost everything, knowing how messed up and how crazy it could sound to her, but she is smart and strong, and stayed with me while I painfully remembered. Here is what came out of our long conversation. She believes and trusts me. She is sure that I truly believe what I told her, and she knows I'm not crazy, but for sure, it's not an easy story to just accept. She just didn't know what to think about all of this. She is very religious and admits that the devil can manifest in some way, even if usually through human acts. Then she told me something I did not expect. Something maybe not very related, but weird in a similar way. Too similar. She had never told me this before. Giuseppe Pasoli was my mother's grandfather, born in 1899. He was just 16 when World War I erupted in Europe. Like all the Italian boys of that generation, he was called to fight against Austrians coming from the north. Just boys, unprepared, used as cannon fodder against Germanic forces. Almost an entire generation decimated by the war. He served under the Alpini, the mountain infantry of the Italian army. They were one of the most massive forces on the field in the bloody war, fought mostly in the mountains, mainly in the Alps. He stayed for the first time away from the battlefield. Then he was sent to Monte Grappa to hold position against the Austrians, in the trenches, in the dirt, in the cold, in the snow, and even in the blood. People were decimated daily underneath machine gun fire, holding position in the trench, assaulting, and then falling back and just defending, always trying to reach the highest position, taking it from the enemy. The stress was extreme every single day, without knowing if he would even survive until the next one. It was winter, and Monte Grappa is a tall mountain. Getting there was difficult. Giuseppe saw a lot of terrifying things. Underage boys torn apart by enemy artillery or grenades. He died very old. My mother was already a young woman. He felt that he did not have much time left, so he wanted to drop a heavy weight he had carried all of his civilian life, something he never dared to tell before. He called his nephews along with my mother, all of them almost adults. He wanted to share it with his beloved ones, and then he told the actual story. As I said, he was deployed on Monte Grappa. He befriended a guy from central Italy, and they endured a lot together in the trench. They became very close. At that moment, he was not on the front line, the hot spot where massacre was routine, but he knew he would be sent there eventually. The orders came from above. They must investigate, scout, and retake an isolated trench near enemy lines, which had also lost radio contact. Supposedly, it was taken by Austrians, and going there as scouts would be suicide. But that's how the Italian generals used their troops, sending them against the enemy, no matter what, wave after wave, even if death was guaranteed. It was their old and blind way to conduct the war, sacrificing men. So, along with his fellow soldier and his friend, they followed orders. It took some hours to reach the position. They had to march underneath the snow and across very impervious terrain to reach this trench. As far as Giuseppe knew, the Austrian trench was not very distant from the Italian one, facing it actually. They were now getting closer, very close. They walked slowly, very slowly, as silently as possible. It was nighttime, and they could not turn on their flashlights because it might cause the enemy to see them from afar. The risk was huge, even in darkness. As they got closer, they heard no noise, which was normal. If Italians were still there, trench warfare forced them to reduce all sound to a minimum so the enemy could not understand what was going on, where sentries were placed, and how they were positioned. In such a situation, even the light of a cigarette could cost you your life, and if Austrians had already taken the trench, they would apply the same logic, waiting for more Italians to arrive. Approaching the trench, now very close, they were always scared to death that the enemy was waiting for them. My grandfather's troop was ready to catch a sound, a small light, a movement, and in the worst case, a bullet, but there was nothing. And this is now weird, because from the trench, they are visible. If Alpini is still there, a sentinel would halt them. If the enemy are there instead, they would just open fire. But no, nothing. The trench is apparently empty. Now they are right in front of it. The commander slowly enters first. The men follow him. The darkness does not let them see inside, but the fact that they are still alive is a good sign by itself. The official silently takes out a lighter. It's a very weak light, and it's also very risky in this situation. But otherwise, it's much too dark to understand what's going on. The light was too weak to properly illuminate the area, but they can at least see the ground and their feet. There are corpses underneath their feet, Italian uniform. Luckily, none of the men stepped on them. The group gets very nervous and points their rifles all around, looking for the Austrians, but there are no signs of them. Giuseppe gets close to his friend, ready for the worst, but nothing happens. While crouched low, they proceed to inspect the trench, with only the weak lighter as a light source. A low noise starts coming from the dark. From his position, just behind his commander, Giuseppe sees a shadow moving. The official sees it too. He signals the troop to halt. He gets close enough for the light to reach the movement. There, a man in Italian uniform is on top of a corpse. The scene is unreal. My great-grandfather had seen everything in war. Bodies torn apart in the worst ways possible. Blood, guts, soldiers dismembered by shrapnel, even killed by primitive weapons like in the Middle Ages. But this was too much, even for him. The man is biting off the corpse's face, like a rabid dog, like a beast. He is biting and tearing the flesh from the body's head, eating voraciously. It's eating the lips, the cheek, the nose, even the eyes. It does not stop. It is eating everything. When this man, this thing, noticed the light, he turned his head toward them. It had cold, blank eyes that stared maliciously. The troops are confused and scared. They don't even have time to aim or fire before he jumps out of the trench and disappears towards the Austrian trench, which is basically suicide because the machine guns would easily take him down. Giuseppe and his comrades do not dare to look over the trench. After a few seconds, they hear machine gun fire from the Austrians' direction. Germanic soldiers shout in their unintelligible language, like trying to spot the enemy, which is also very weird because that first burst would have eradicated any human, leaving no chance to hide in the open field. Then there are more violent bursts, then more screams, and finally, there is just silence on that cold night. The Italians took back the position. They didn't know if the Austrians were still on the opposing side, and for the first day, they did not dare to explore the enemy territory. Eventually, on the second day, the Austrians were clearly present. The Italian commanders never knew if they were the same ones who fired at the running man the first night, or only knew backup who had retaken the position. In the great mess of World War I, there was no time to pay attention to that event. Hundreds of soldiers died every single day on both sides, so it wasn't a big deal officially. But Giuseppe did care, and almost took it to the grave. He died months later after telling it to his relatives, who didn't take it seriously, including my mother. It was the story of a dying old man who experienced the Great War as a teen. Over the years, she forgot the story, but now she felt the urge to share it with me. Maybe he was just a very messed up soldier who had seen too many horrors, or maybe it was the creepy imagination of an old man. No clue. But what if it was true? After what I saw, I am inclined to believe that it really happened. Today I was at the funeral. It took me a bit to come around, so I was already tired when I finally arrived. Anyway, I unfortunately did not have much time to speak with Chiara, Esposito's widow, or the rest of his family. I left my contact details, and I told her and her brother that if they feel like it, to meet and speak with me for a bit about what happened to him before he took his own life. During the ceremony, we obviously did not have time to speak. But 20 minutes ago, his brother sent me a message. They want to see me tomorrow. I accepted. Other than me, there was the other survivor, Francesco, at the funeral. He's from a town near Florence, so he came and went back the same day by car. So we just spoke for a bit after the funeral, because he had to go back home. Anyway, after I found out the thing between us, shit went down. He barely saw that fucker grabbing one of the men and then throwing him against a house and killing him instantly. He told me it was so inhumanly fast. It all happened in just some seconds. Then the thing started to run around at an incredible speed, everyone shooting at him, but it was like shooting to a tornado, impossible to hit. Sometimes the things, running between the panicking group, grabbed someone and just took him behind in the dark, momentarily disappearing from the sight, then coming back from another direction to hit someone again. Comrades just started to disappear, in the mess of people screaming and shooting at the air. All of this hitting and retreating at a speed that was hard to describe. Also, The lighting of our flashlights on the helmet was useless, and it was hard to see. Let's not even speak about aiming. It was like he could only just see one frame of that thing, like every now and again. After he barely saw some of the thing and tried unsuccessfully to take down the hostile, he had the most logical idea and got in the protection of a lens. Already inside, there was La Rosa, scared just like him. They heard weird noises outside the lens. He described that in the distance that he could hear the same noises that we heard when it was outside our vehicle. The crazy Esposito's voice. They tried, like us, to get on their lens's engine, without results. After that, something tried to get inside their vehicle, maybe attracted by their voices. It was scratching on the metal and knocking on the glass. It was 10 whole minutes of this shit, and then just silence. After a bit, La Rosa went into total panic. He just wanted to get outside, to look for help. He was getting claustrophobic, probably could not stand the stress. He felt like he was trapped in a cage. Maybe, La Rosa said, that thing got away, and they could go calling for help. Maybe the other lenses worked, so they could get away from all this shit. Anyway, Francesco did his best to keep the other man inside, but it was no use. In that moment, La Rosa was not lucid. He just pushed Francesco away from him, opened the door very quickly, and sprinted away, disappearing in the night. For a second, Francesco considered following the man to take him back, but then survival instinct kicked in, and he just barricaded the vehicle again. In the following time, he can't recall how much time passed. He could hear noises in the distance. Just a few times, something get near his lens and push the vehicle, tapping on the glass. Francesco could not clearly see what it was. It was too dark. He could only see an indistinct shape. Then, after an undefined amount of time, the truck came there. Just in time, actually, because he was starting to consider using his pistol to take his own life. And yeah, basically that's it. I don't know what anyone else experienced. Unfortunately, I did not have the chance to find out. But for sure, for him it was even worse than for us. So, today I met Chiara and Matteo, Esposito's brother. After lunch, we met at Chiara's house. At first, they were nervous about the situation. It seemed clear that they did not speak about this with other people, and for them, I was a stranger that barely knew their brother. I worked up the courage to break the silence. I feel very sorry for what happened to him. I heard that he showed some signs of distress lately, but it was normal considering what happened. Unfortunately, as you probably know, he is not the first of us to do it. So, may I ask you, what did he tell you about what happened? Chiara stared at the table, purposefully avoiding my eyes. Well, not much. After he came here from rehab, he was very different. With me, a lot of silence. He didn't want to speak about it. To be honest, we never directly faced the topic. He got very upset when I tried to get to it. Matteo put a hand on her shoulder and said, he didn't want to scare you. It was too much for you. He didn't know how you would react. Then he stared at me. With me it was the same. In general, he just seemed unplugged by the real world. Until, tired and stressed by the situation, I forced him to speak. I faced him. Whatever happened, I was his brother, and we always shared everything. Suddenly, he cried, desperately. We were alone in the house in that moment. He started to violently shake. I didn't know what to do. He was no more the man I knew. He was a weak little puppy, terrified. As bad as remembering could be, sharing with me was the first step to get through it. So after a while of this, he finally spoke about that night. After your team got in the empty village, and you found no enemies, Nicola and the others were called for some sort of inspection. Weird. You gave the order to stay in line, and one by one, pointed a light on everybody's face. Here, Nicola did not know what happened. Soldiers next to him started to scream and shoot. Without any explanation, something was taking down the group one by one, running and hiding in the darkness all around. Shooting was of no use, as soldiers went on disappearing. Nicola looked for the only place that seemed safe, and in that moment, sprinted to one of the lens. When he was just some meters distance away from it, something from behind grabbed his leg and made him fall. This also made his helmet fall off of his head and his light too, The flashlight of his fallen helmet was pointed towards the lens, so he basically had no visual behind himself. Still on the ground, he rapidly turned around to see who or what was so tightly grabbing his leg. In the darkness, he could barely see, but also from his voice, he understood it was another soldier, Prince of Ali. He was screaming in both pain and fear. Someone was pulling away in the darkness the soldier. Whoever he was, he should be very strong, because Prince of Ali immediately lost the grip on Nicola's leg. Before the man could disappear away into the darkness, Nicola grabbed onto him and pulled, as strong as he could, using all of his weight, but the one pulling on the other side, where Nicola could not see, they were just too damn strong. It was like a horse was pulling that man. After only a few seconds, the pull from the other side was so inhumanly strong and ferocious that the body of Prince of Ali itself got torn apart, and his arm was still in Nicola's hands. His hand was ripped away. Crazy. That was it. Nicola heard the poor man screaming as he was taken God knows where. He was so shocked he did not throw away the arm, but he actually held on to the arm as if it was a baby. He finally got inside the lens, and he was covered in Prince of Ali's blood. No one was inside the vehicle. Nicola tried to start the car, uselessly. The lens was of no use, no chance to run away, or even light up the area. He was just panicking. The distant screaming stopped, and for a moment, there was a surreal silence. Suddenly, he heard a noise just outside the vehicle. Nicola tried to look from the window, but it was too dark to see anything. Then, someone or something charged at the side of the lens. The blinded doors resisted well, but the vehicle was moved a bit by the violent impact. There was another charge, this time from the other side. It was like it was coming from a raging bull. After that, Nicola thought it was the end. He started praying to every saint he knew, reciting all the prayers he learned as a child. Then the bumping stopped. My brother was there, ready for the final blow. Instead, a voice repeated his same words. The problem is that it was his own voice, but distorted, like in a falsetto, mocking him. The voice repeated his words again for some minutes. Nicola was at his limit. Go away, or kill me if you want. I can't stand this anymore. After he said this, the voice stopped, and then something with an incredible force hit against the windows, trying to get inside. The armored glass stayed still, just a minor crack where the blow hit, but the window resisted. The point was clear. That thing wanted to get inside, wanted to get Nicola at every cost, enraged, frustrated because of all of that resistance. The thing got on top of the vehicle, charged again. It moved a lot. My brother inside, living every single second like it was the last, crying. He didn't even have the force to pray anymore. He was hugging that bloody arm like it was a teddy bear, desperately. After a while it stopped and went away. My brother collapsed because of the prolonged stress, and he was woken up by the troops that rushed there to help. He did not speak for days. Unlike Hugh and the others, he did not witness when asked. He spoke a bit with a psychologist, and wanting to just get home, he lied that he did not remember, that he was just relieved to be alive. He came back home and then, well, you know the rest. Was my brother crazy? Did he imagine everything because of the PTSD? He was looking at me, waiting for an answer. I don't know what he saw, but no, it was not his imagination, if it helps. He took a drag of his cigarette. I don't know if it helps. I nod. Honestly, I didn't know what else I should say. It would be useless. About that note, I heard he left one. Did you see it? No. He cut himself in his car in a very isolated area. I think to spare his wife finding him at home. Someone found him and called the carabinieri. They said there was a note on the passenger seat, but they had to confiscate it momentarily for investigational reasons. They still have it at the station. I went away, not much time later. Chiara was still sleeping, probably took a sedative, so I could not talk to her again. And that's it. Matteo told me that when they finally give him back the note, he will tell me what it says. It's probably just useless, but there is still some curiosity in me about that piece of paper.